We all know that in 2024, Bitcoin was the star of the show as its spot ETFs launched in the United States. But what if we told you that the whole crypto market could be about to go parabolic in 2025? And that's because a whole range of altcoins are on track to get their own ETFs. And this could send the market into overdrive and push prices up towards Valhalla. My name is Nick, and today we'll look at these pending altcoin ETF applications, tell you which ones are the most likely to be approved, when this could happen, and what it could all mean for your bags. Before we begin, let me be clear. No financial advice will be given here. We're here to help you on your crypto quest, but it's up to you to decide what is best. Crypto's a ride, it's wild and unsteady. So research well to make sure you're ready. Okay, now that I've got that off my chest, let's take a look at altcoin ETFs. Now, as you'll know, the Spot Bitcoin ETFs have been a major success since they were approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission back in January 2024. Now, this is one of the many bullish catalysts that 2024 threw up and was arguably the one that sent BTC soaring to new all-time highs. We also saw the approval of Spot Ethereum ETFs, which began trading in July after the SEC quite unexpectedly gave them the thumbs up too. However, the Ethereum ETFs haven't enjoyed the same success, and at the time of shooting, ETH has yet to reclaim its previous all-time high of around $4,900. There are a few reasons for this, with the most obvious being the large outflows from Grayscale's converted Ethereum trust. But at a more fundamental level, Bitcoin is much easier for institutional investors to wrap their heads around than Ethereum is. And that's because BTC has a very simple narrative: digital gold. Conversely, ETH is the gas token that powers a global virtual computer that features smart contract-enabled dApps. So, yeah, a little more advanced. Whatever the reason, though, the Spot Ethereum ETFs have not met the expectations that institutional investors would flock to ETH to enjoy the many layers of potential it has to offer. No layer 2 pun intended. In fact, it wasn't until November when the Spot Ethereum ETFs began gaining momentum, and that's likely because of two things: Donald Trump's presidential election victory and Gary Gensler subsequently stepping down as the chairman of the SEC. More on that a bit later. In any case, the Ethereum ETFs marked the first time an altcoin got such royal treatment in this context, and has since had everyone wondering which one is next. Luckily, Eric Balkunas, a senior ETF analyst from Bloomberg, he has the answers. As of November 2024, there were 14 pending ETF applications. This list includes 3 dual ETFs that incorporate both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they were submitted by Hashdex, Franklin Templeton, and Bitwise. And there's also 2 so-called baskets, including conversions from Grayscale's large cap trust and Bitwise's 10 crypto index. And for anyone wondering, Grayscale's large cap trust features BTC, ETH, XRP, SOL, and AVAX. Meanwhile, Bitwise's 10 crypto index features BTC, ETH, XRP, SOL, ADA, AVAX, Link, DOT, BCH, and of course, NEAR. Anyway, there are also 4 standalone ETF applications for Solana, submitted by VanEck, 21 Shares, Canary Capital, and Bitwise. There are 3 for XRP from Bitwise, 21 Shares, and Canary. And interestingly, Canary is the only one to have submitted ETF applications for Litecoin and Hedera. Since that tweet was posted at the end of November, the SEC has approved 2 of the 3 Bitcoin and Ethereum dual ETFs, specifically the ones from Hashdex and Franklin Templeton. This approval happened just 9 days after Hashdex's 3rd deadline. The first deadline for Bitwise's dual ETF is at the end of January, so logically this would be the next one to get approved, especially since the other 2 have already been given the thumbs up. As for Solana, the SEC reportedly intends to reject 2 of the Sol ETF applications. And what's more is that they've also signaled their intention to pause new ETF applications under the current administration. Looks like a bit of a snark from Gary on his way out, if you ask me. Nevertheless, WisdomTree has since filed for an ETF application for XRP, and Grayscale has filed for a Sol ETF too, suggesting they believe approvals will come eventually. And who knows, there are probably more filings by the time you're watching this video. Speaking of which, if you haven't done so already, why not hit up those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps us out. Oh, and be sure to turn on those notifications too so you get more content like this. Now, while the SEC will probably ignore any new ETF applications under this administration, this doesn't slow things down too much. And that's because following Donald Trump's presidential election victory, SEC Chairman Gary Gensler is finally stepping down on the 20th of January, the same day as Trump's inauguration. And just as we'll be cheering his departure, we'll also be cheering the arrival of his replacement, Paul Atkins. For those unfamiliar, Paul actually served as a member of the President's Strategic and Policy Forum in the Trump first term. In that time, he was recognized for promoting common sense regulations and advising against regulation that created unnecessary obstacles. He also happens to be pro-crypto. You can think of him as the yin to Gary Gensler's yang. The caveat is that Paul won't be in the moment Gary is out. In the short term, Gary will likely be replaced by an acting chair until Paul is formally appointed. The acting chair will be selected from the SEC's existing commissioners. With a bit of luck, they will also be pro-crypto, as most of them are. So the chances are looking good. Anyway, this is a big deal because the SEC has been notorious for rejecting crypto ETF applications, all in the name of so-called investor protection. Naturally, this raises the questions of how the SEC reviews ETF applications in the first place. Well, there are a number of factors taken into consideration. First, the SEC will assess the custodial arrangements in order to prevent any theft or fraud. The regulator also checks that there's enough market surveillance to avoid any market manipulation, and that there's enough liquidity for investors to trade freely. And finally, the SEC checks how the ETF will track the price of the crypto in question. The thing is, the interpretation of these rules is often a cause for the SEC to reject ETFs, and this is one of the many reasons why people are excited about the upcoming changes. Once Gary leaves and Paul steps in, the door to new possibilities is thrown wide open, granted, of course, that Paul's appointment is approved by the Senate. For instance, the guidelines themselves could become more relaxed, or at the very least, there would be a more relaxed interpretation of the existing guidelines. This should allow the regulator to become much friendlier towards the crypto industry, which should speed up ETF approvals. At the same time, President-elect Trump has already signaled his intention to hand oversight of the crypto market over from the SEC to the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC. This means that even if Paul doesn't get Senate approval to run the SEC, the regulator may not affect the crypto market as much as it once did. To be clear, the CFTC wouldn't have the authority to approve or reject ETF applications, but it would gain much more authority over the space. For many people, this is great because the CFTC is considered much less anti-crypto than the SEC. What this could mean is that the crypto industry won't be held back by stringent regulations that slam the brakes on innovation. Instead, the regulatory environment would be much more relaxed, allowing for the broader crypto industry to thrive as it always should have.
We regret to announce that the Bro Crypto podcast is sponsored by the Coin Bureau Deals page. This is the place where you can find the very best deals and promos in the crypto space. From massive trading fee discounts to insane sign-up bonuses on some of the best crypto exchanges. You'll also find crazy discounts on hardware wallets, and you can sign up for our exclusive Coin Bureau club there too. So check out the Coin Bureau deals page today. Otherwise, you'll have to keep listening to these two idiots.
Hell, that's the problem a lot of crypto bros have these days. They're inside too much, 24/7 on the
computer. Open your inside.
Yeah.
You need to get out. You need to get some sun. You need to get some vitamin D.
So then, when will the altcoin ETF applications be approved? Unfortunately, the short answer is not immediately. As we mentioned earlier, the current SEC administration has reportedly paused new ETF applications, so don't expect the ball to start rolling again until the end of January at the very earliest. Once things do begin to move, though, there are a few things we can keep in mind, particularly when it comes to the SEC's own approval deadlines. Specifically, the SEC has 45 days from the date of the ETF filing to make an initial decision, by which point it can extend the review period to a maximum of 240 days, or roughly 8 months. It's also worth noting that while the review process is ongoing, stakeholders are able to express their opinions or their concerns. Unsurprisingly, the SEC has historically used almost all 240 days for any crypto-related ETF decisions. However, under a new administration, it's far less likely that this process will be dragged out to the limit. While nobody knows for sure when the altcoin ETFs will be approved, a few analysts have given their predictions. Eric Balkunas and James Seyffert, both Bloomberg ETF analysts, predict that we'll see a wave of new ETFs in 2025, but not all at once. On the 17th of December, they predicted that the dual Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs would be approved first, and just 2 days later, this prediction came true. They also predicted that Litecoin ETFs will follow soon after, and that's simply because Litecoin is a fork of Bitcoin. Hedera would supposedly follow Litecoin, possibly between Q1 and Q2. Then, towards the end of the year, we could see Sol and XRP get their own ETFs too, depending, of course, on the resolution of any legal issues related to the two crypto projects. James Seyffert, in particular, has outlined that neither Litecoin's LTC nor Hedera's HBAR have been labeled as securities anywhere, and this gives their ETF applications the highest chances of approval. Oddly enough, neither LTC nor HBAR have moved much on this news. Elsewhere, Nate Garachi, the CEO of ETF Store, has said to, quote, assume multiple issuers were highly prepared for election results, and added that there's, quote, no downside to getting aggressive now. Alex Thorne, the head of research at Galaxy Digital, has also said that Litecoin's ETF has a high chance of approval thanks to its fair launch and absence of a pre-mine or token sale. But it's not just industry experts giving their predictions. According to prediction market platforms such as Polymarket, XRP is the most likely altcoin to get an ETF at about a 75% probability. Solana comes in at a close second place with 69%, followed by Litecoin at 51%, and wait, Dogecoin has an ETF probability of 22%? Only in crypto, eh folks? And this is crazy when you consider that none of the ETF applications are for Dogecoin, not even those for the crypto index ETFs. But it's not so crazy when you remember that Dogecoin is actually a fork of Litecoin. Food for thought. As for the ETF baskets, that is the converted index funds from Grayscale and Bitwise, we reckon these will be approved later in 2025, and that's simply because these products are obviously more complex. So then, you're probably wondering what this could mean for the cryptos in question. Well, let's start with the obvious. In theory, the altcoins associated with their respective ETFs should see a massive surge in price. We say in theory because many people expected this to happen with the Spot Ethereum ETFs, but as we saw, this didn't really play out. And let's not kid ourselves, there's a very real chance that we could see a similar lack of institutional interest in the altcoins with pending ETF applications. Assuming that these altcoin ETFs gain more traction, though, several analysts have made a variety of price predictions for the altcoins with these pending ETFs. To refresh your memory, these include Sol, XRP, LTC, and HBAR. Starting with Solana, predictions for Sol's price vary from $300 to $450 in the near term. Some have even predicted Sol could reach the landmark $1,000 in the most favorable market conditions. So far, things are looking pretty good on that front. One prediction that caught our eye was from Jeff Kendrick, the global head of digital assets research at Standard Chartered. Jeff reckons that Sol could reach $560, which is more than double its previous all-time high. As for XRP, you'll probably know that its price rallied like crazy recently, and we reckon that there's still plenty of room to run. You can learn more about that in our video over here, by the way. Anyway, post-ETF price predictions for XRP range from $2.8 to $3.15 in the near term, with longer-term predictions of around $10. Some more bullish estimates even put XRP at $35 by the end of the year. That's an insane jump from today's prices, but if there's anything that the XRP army has taught us recently, it's not to rule them out. Moving on to Litecoin, our price predictions for LTC range from $130 to $160 in the near term. As for the long term, predictions range from $170 to $205, with some uber bullish predictions even putting LTC as high as $1,100 by the end of the year. Wow. And finally, Hedera's HBAR price targets seem to be a bit more conservative here. But then again, that's probably because HBAR has already enjoyed an impressive rally since November. In the short term, some believe that HBAR could hit around 70 cents and around 80 cents in the long term. Some more optimistic predictions even have HBAR between $1.5 and $2 by the end of the year. Ultimately, though, these are all just guesses. How much a crypto will rally by will depend on how much institutional interest their respective ETFs can attract, assuming, of course, they get approved in the first place. So then, a lot of talk about a few pending altcoin ETFs, but what does this mean for the broader altcoin market? Well, this is where things get really interesting. You see, for each altcoin ETF that gets approved, this will create FOMO on several fronts. Now, retail investors will realize the potential for massive inflows and will ape into these cryptos to get ahead of the pack. They will also start speculating on which altcoins could be the next ones to get ETF approvals. Meanwhile, the ETFs will show institutional investors the crazy price potential that altcoins can have, and this could trigger their FOMO. This is especially likely if stocks and bonds are sluggish as a result of things like Trump's tariffs. But back to the possibility of more altcoin ETFs. If the first wave of altcoin ETFs takes off, then this would incentivize the submissions of even more altcoin ETF applications, as it would prove that the demand is indeed there. When you start to think of the possibilities here, you quickly realize that crypto's total market cap could explode. Oh, and remember when we said that Dogecoin could be getting an ETF? Well, it might not be the only dog on the block. Just recently, the CFTC labeled Flocky as a utility token. What this means is that the Flocky token is driven by real use cases rather than speculation or manipulation. When you recall that the CFTC will likely soon have authoritative oversight of the crypto market, you start to wonder if Flocky could one day have an ETF of its own. More to the point, you also start to wonder what other meme coins, dog-themed or otherwise, could get similar treatment. In any case, knowing which altcoin could get an ETF next is anyone's guess, but we can perhaps use asset managers like Grayscale as a proxy here. If you watched our video on Grayscale's altcoin trusts, you'll know that they have a habit of creating trusts for altcoins that could be on the radar of institutions. More about that in the description. Now, as we've discussed in this video, the regulatory landscape for crypto will likely become much more relaxed in the coming months, and this could actually be huge for crypto staking in particular. In fact, James Seyfert predicts that crypto staking will become an integral part of the ETF market. Right now, Gary Gensler's SEC views staked cryptos as unregistered securities. But if Paul Atkins' SEC takes a more relaxed stance on staking, this would be huge news for Ethereum and any other proof-of-stake cryptos. In fact, it could be huge news for altcoins that offer decent staking rewards, since these will be incredibly attractive to institutional investors who love earning yield. But best of all, the rise of altcoin ETFs would significantly boost the legitimacy of the crypto industry, and this could be a key catalyst that sparks that mass adoption. So, strap in, folks, because 2025 could be one hell of a year. Okay, if you found this video interesting, why don't you subscribe to the channel right over here? Oh, and if trading is your thing, you have to check out our rebooted trading channel. That's right, over here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.